He wasted 5 long years grinding a dead-end, impossible video game while his girlfriend coldly dumped him for being an unemployed loser. But the apocalypse just violently dragged those ruthless survival game mechanics music into the real world. While panicked citizens run from grotesque monsters, our guy just synced his physical body with his broken, god-tier digital avatar. A massive bug monster thinks it's about to feast on a helpless bystander, but he casually slices it into modern art with music one effortless swing. He's starting with 13 hidden traits, and this is just the beginning. We start right in the middle of a scorching desert where the locals are sweating profusely while fighting off a massive monster and each other. Right in the thick of this chaos is our boy, smashing his way through the human army like a one-man wrecking ball. The monstrous beast is exhausted just trying to take him down. Our boy mentally complains that his heart is about to explode and breathing feels like swallowing a knife. He can't even tell if he's dripping crimson or sweat anymore. But his senses scream that this hyper-realistic agony is way beyond simple computer graphics. A flurry of system notifications pings in his vision, announcing the activation of hidden traits like Iron-Blooded Lord's Heart, Weapon Master, and Dexterity. Surrounded by an entire army, he accepts that this nightmare is reality, right before taking a finishing blow and getting a massive game over screen. Back in the real world, our boy leans back in his gaming chair and aggressively questions the quality of this trash game. His real name is Park, a name his parents gave him hoping he would live wisely, though his current lifestyle is the exact opposite. After quitting his job a few months ago, his entire existence has devolved into being a hardcore gaming addict, locked in his room. In reality, he has been obsessed with this specific game for 5 long years. The login screen for Pangea probably displays its vintage slogan, promising to grant one wish to anyone who clears the game. This bold claim initially attracted highly skilled players, but the sadistic difficulty quickly frustrated them into quitting. Now, our boy is the only active player left, floating around like a solitary fly in a dead server. He recalls the endless online complaints from the past, with players whining about losing all their gear, getting one-shot by bosses, and dealing with allies who suddenly turn hostile. Avoiding unbeatable named NPCs is critical because getting targeted means permanent character deletion, forcing players to start over from absolute scratch. Our boy strongly suspects the developers designed this digital torture chamber specifically to prevent anyone from clearing it. Having just lost 5 years of progress and 8 out of the 15 unique items in the game, he feels completely hollow. A system window cheerfully informs him that his character has been deleted due to the elimination penalty, but compensates him with a staggering 1.6 million soul points. Soul points are calculated based on the deleted character's value and are used to buy talents for a new build. Since the maximum limit per talent is 10,000 points, our boy realizes he's essentially filthy rich and can max out almost every skill. He normally prefers investing in magic talents, but pure apathy takes over. Figuring he'll never beat the game anyway, he decides to just mess around and enjoy the character creation process properly before deleting the game for good. His deep-seated nihilism stems from a brutal memory from 3 months prior. His girlfriend of 5 years coldly dumped him in a cafe, insisting she needed a man with an actual corporate future, not someone wasting their life away. She abandoned him at the table, leaving him completely devastated. Driven by petty anger, our boy rage quit his job and fully embraced his digital isolation, channeling that lingering bitterness. He furiously mashes the random button on the stat distribution screen, burning through hundreds of points at a time just for fun. Suddenly, he hits the jackpot. A hidden piece activates, and a system message congratulates him on meeting the requirements to be invited to Pangea. A strange, heavy aura envelops his room. A menacing voice echoes directly in his head, promising to burn all the worlds a demon lord has made. Our boy clutches his ears in confusion before passing out cold on his keyboard. His monitor flashes a poetic red warning about creation, destruction, and finding happiness in Pangea. The next thing he knows, he wakes up face first in the hot sand, receiving a brutal whip strike to his back. A slave driver barks at him to get up, threatening to feed him to the high dragon if he falls again. Still trembling, our boy looks around and realizes with sheer horror that he has been teleported directly into the game. He scrambles to his feet and joins a line of miserable slaves getting whipped into formation, staring up at the towering high dragon, which is a literal mountain of ugliness the size of a dinosaur. With a face that looks like it was put together in the dark using leftover scrap metal and bad intentions, he mentally summons his status window. His stats are completely broken. Strength, stamina, agility, intelligence, and magic are all sitting at an impossible level 12, far above the game's normal cap of 10. His talent list is ridiculously long, maxed out in everything from swordsmanship and elemental magic to archery and leadership. He also possesses an absurd list of hidden traits, including Weapon Master, Giant's Resistance, Gluttony, and Great Sage. An ominous warning notes Ahemia collapse at 6.12%, explaining that as the collapse progresses, the boundary between reality and the game weakens with the first feature unlocking at 10%. Before he can fully process his overpowered status, pure chaos erupts across the desert. Someone screams that the Desert Queen's army has broken the non-aggression pact and launched a surprise attack. Our boy spots a girl riding the massive monster and instantly recognizes her as the Snake Princess Shirley. A main quest window violently pops into his vision, demanding he survive. The horrific catch is that failing the quest means permanent deletion from both the game and the real world. A volley of arrows rains down, instantly taking out several slaves around him. Our boy freezes in shock, but his newly acquired iron-blooded Lord's Heart trait automatically kicks in. The passive skill suppresses his panic, allowing him to accept the terrifying situation with unnatural calm. Realizing standing still is a guaranteed game over, he lunges for a dropped sword. An enemy soldier charges at him, but our boy effortlessly dodges the attack and takes him down with a clean slice. As the enemy hits the sand, the hidden trait Weapon Master loudly announces its activation. Another warrior mocks our boy as a worthless slave, but he simply scoops up a dropped spear and casually fells him with a single swipe. The borrowed weapon feels perfectly natural in his hands. He effortlessly dodges an incoming attack, practically seeing the sword's path mapped out in glowing neon. Someone nearby screams in confusion, wondering why a random slave is fighting when the main expedition team is already knocked out. Meanwhile, system notifications spam his vision. Thanks to his dexterity trait, his weapon proficiencies skyrockets. Both his sword and spear mastery hit level 5, then instantly jump to level 6. Considering the absolute maximum is 10, our boy realizes he is casually wielding the skill of a named knight. He mentally praises his hidden traits, knowing it is a miracle he is surviving this long. But looking at the 500 enemies still swarming him, he seriously questions how this quest expects him to win alone. The scene shifts to a luxurious throne room where a queen sits flanked by her royal guards. A subordinate delivers the bad news that the desert expedition has completely failed. The queen turns to the Snake Princess, ordering immediate damage control. If word leaks that their city did not participate, the central continent will absolutely blame them. The queen orders the princess to march straight to the Coltsman Desert, eliminate all survivors, and scrub the evidence. In exchange, she promises to finally lift the princess's curse. The princess eagerly accepts the mission. Back in the desert, the Snake Princess is currently doing an excellent job of erasing everyone in sight. A subordinate reports that one extremely stubborn slave is still holding out. That slave is our boy, who just leveled up to 2, fully restoring his health, magic, and fatigue right before the boss music kicks in. The princess arrives and orders everyone out of the way. Our boy instantly reads her status. Isabella Vendarian, level 8. suffering from an abnormal desert curse that prevents her from leaving the area. He mentally panics. In a game strictly capped at level 10, a level 8 is major organization leader territory. Facing her face-to-face is a complete disaster. She approaches, complimenting his skills before powering up her formidable aura to take him down. Facing imminent deletion, our boy remembers he is a true gaming freak who thrives on broken strategies, flashing a painfully confident grin right as she attacks. He casually asks if she wants her queen's curse lifted, which instantly hits the brakes on her attempt to finish him. She demands to know who he really is. Channeling his inner majestic guru, he claims to be a saint, a reader of the stars who can guide her to freedom. The princess is completely stunned. Our boy internally celebrates his massive bluff. Saints are strictly non-playable characters needed for players to transcend past level 10, and only a star's blessing can remove her specific curse. The ultimate irony is that he knows exactly what she needs because he actually created her. Character. He abandoned her at the starting point years ago, leaving her permanently trapped by that very curse. She asks his name, and he smoothly replies with Randolph. The system officially locks it in. She puts his elimination on hold, music, warning him against any falsehoods. She orders her soldiers to treat him as a special guest. A massive notification confirms his survival quest is complete with unprecedented, beyond perfect results thanks to the impressed constellations of fortune and battle. His rewards get a huge upgrade, a fragment of the broken golden rule, a high dragon soul, and the legendary 9 Males sword. Our boy collapses onto the sand in disbelief, securing 220 points and unlocking the Hall of Fame. Later, he enjoys a luxurious bath, excitedly analyzing his shiny new loot. The High Dragon Soul summons a level 5 beast, and Michella's sword is a ridiculously overpowered early-game weapon requiring 20 strengths. He then checks the Golden Rule fragment, which vaguely mentions syncing reality and the game for 24 hours. His quiet time is abruptly interrupted by 3 maids who step in, offering to wash him. Our boy awkwardly requests they stick to just his feet, sweating profusely. He realizes Isabella's maids are testing him, as true saints are immune to temptation. He forces himself to remain perfectly calm. While ignoring the maids, he reads a terrifying system warning. The Hemia is collapsing at 7.66%, actively weakening the barrier between reality and the game. He wonders what that means before opening the Hall of Fame rankings. His jaw drops. Right below his first place spot are Gracia, and Mako is tasty. His old gaming buddies, who supposedly quit years ago, he realizes they were dragged into this dangerous game too. He quickly spots the ultimate prize, the logout button. Ignoring the warning that logging out leaves his character vulnerable, he acts fast. He points firmly at the door and orders the maids out so he can commune with the stars. When one hesitates, citing the princess's orders, he bluffs that missing his cosmic appointment will strip his saintly powers, ruining her boss's salvation. The panicked maid wishes him a pleasant communion and quickly leaves. Our boy sighs with massive relief, bids a harsh farewell to the trash game, and slams the logout button. He opens his eyes in his real-world bedroom, but the nightmare is far from over. Outside his window, the city is engulfed in flames, and monstrous creatures are strolling down the streets. His phone screams with emergency alerts reporting unknown attacks across Seoul and Busan. Trembling, he peers out only to lock eyes with a horrific monster staring right back at him. He dives back into his room, completely losing it over why the game's monsters are hosting an apocalypse in his neighborhood. As he panics, a small, solid gold object quietly drops from his pocket. Our boy wakes up in his gaming chair, trying to convince himself his trip to a dangerous desert world was just a hyper-realistic nap. He immediately hits the denial phase, assuring himself that getting sucked into a video game is strictly web novel fiction. But then he spots a little gold pouch sitting innocently on his desk. Panic sets in as he grabs it. He definitely did not leave that there before passing out. Desperate for answers, he checks his computer, only to find the Panja homepage scrubbed from the internet, displaying a cold error message. His digital crisis is shattered by the sounds of genuine horror outside. Peeking out, he spots actual monsters turning his neighborhood into a chaotic buffet, while police officers screamed for backup against the unidentified threats. His phone instantly floods with emergency alerts, confirming the apocalypse is officially live. The boundary between reality and the game has completely shattered. Realizing he can't fight a monster with his keyboard, our boy desperately checks the golden pouch. He pulls out the High Dragon's soul and the insanely overpowered Mashila's sword, unsure how to equip them without a mouse to double-click. Thankfully, a system window pops up for the fragment of the broken golden rule, offering to sync reality and the game for a 24-hour limit. Seeing no other option against the roaming beasts, he instantly activates the sync, fully merging his real-world self with his ridiculously overpowered game avatar, Randolph. On the chaotic streets, a mother is sprinting with her child. The kid cries, asking why they can't just go home. The mother tries to reassure her just as a massive chunk of debris comes crashing down from a building. The mother heroically shoves her kid out of the way, taking the full impact herself. A terrified bystander rushes over, and the injured mother uses her last breath to beg the woman to take her child and run. The bystander promises to protect the kid, but freezes in pure terror as a massive bug monster zeroes in on her. Just as she accepts her trip to the afterlife, our boy drops onto the scene. With a single effortless swing of his sword, he slices the monster into modern art. The bystander is completely shell-shocked. She screams a warning as another monster sneaks up right behind him, but our boy does not even flinch. Instead, his newly summoned High Dragon, a 9-headed nightmare, casually obliterates the bug without our boy even turning his head. Standing triumphantly on the dragon, he casually tells the lady to stand up. While she questions if she is having a stress-induced hallucination, and the kid cries for their fallen mom, our boy goes to work, clearing out the surrounding monsters like they are wet tissue paper, while the surviving crowd watches in absolute awe. In reality, this apocalypse is a global phenomenon. Civilizations are crumbling everywhere, but mysteriously overpowered warriors are suddenly appearing on the streets, effortlessly slicing through bulletproof monsters and playing the hero. Watching this unfold on a smartphone from the safety of his room is a player known as Massacre. He aggressively rolls his eyes, calling these heroes absolute fools for wasting their precious golden rule fragments so early. Massacre pieces together that the two worlds are fully merging and figures whoever hoards the most fragments will absolutely dominate this chaotic new era. He checks the newly updated survival rankings and fixates on the top score, Randolph with an impossible 220 points. Massacre knows exactly who this is. Randolph is a legendary Phantom player, the only maniac who ever pushed the Demon Realm Grand Expedition all the way to the final boss before failing. Massacre deduces that Randolph must have been summoned with the maxed-out talents of his absolute best character, making him a terrifying threat. Meanwhile, having logged back into the game, our boy is sitting in his luxurious desert bath, aggressively connecting the dots. Since monsters are invading reality, and players are being summoned as their in-game avatars, his past failures suddenly make total sense. During his final attempt to clear the game's grand expedition, his trusted NPC mercenaries constantly betrayed him, and the game threw impossible roadblocks his way no matter what he did. He suddenly realizes those were not system glitches. They were other summoned players actively sabotaging his run because they did not want the game to end. Realizing he has a massive target on his back and that simply hiding offline will not protect either world, he decides he needs to get obscenely strong immediately. Dripping with newfound resolve, he heads straight back to the Snake Princess. She eagerly asks if he finished his cosmic phone call with the stars. He smoothly confirms he is ready to keep his promise and lift her curse, but drops one massive condition. She has to take him directly into the sanctuary. Isabella looks at him like he just asked to deep fry her crown, calling him absolutely crazy for wanting to enter such a restricted zone. Our boy just flashes a knowing grin, claiming the stars are guiding him there. In reality, he knows the second main quest is to earn a class. And the absolute best overpowered class in the game is sitting right inside that exact sanctuary. As if on cue, a system window pops up, officially triggering the quest to obtain his new class. The evening sets over the sanctuary as the Snake Princess effortlessly slices her way through the entire guard detail in mere minutes, watching her turn elite soldiers into modern art. Our boy mentally sweats out a sigh of relief, incredibly grateful this walking blender is currently on his side. Just a few hours prior, he had boldly asked her to escort him directly into the sanctuary. She had looked at him like his brain was running on dial-up, completely flabbergasted that he wanted to break into such a heavily guarded stronghold. But our boy had a master plan. Knowing the second main quest involves obtaining a class, he specifically wanted a hidden star class located right inside. Relying on the memory of his previous overpowered character, he knew he was the only player alive with its exact coordinates. He smoothly bluffed that he absolutely needed to retrieve this hidden star to cure her curse, shutting down her protests about security by pointing out that her royal status gave her VIP access. He delivered a brutal ultimatum, telling her this was her one and only ticket out of the desert. Internally, his soul was practically packing its bags, fully aware that if she called his bluff, he would be instantly reduced to a stain on the floor. Snapping back to the present, our boy casually announces they have arrived at the holy ground, pointing toward a looming set of underground stairs. As they descend, a flurry of system windows violently pops into his vision. The system welcomes him to the hidden sanctuary, offering an exploration subquest while aggressively warning that his measly level 2 status is vastly below the recommended level of 8. The air is thick with toxic energy and dark magic, but his giant's resistance trait steps up like a VIP bouncer, completely shielding him from the hostile atmosphere. Our boy knows a normal newbie would melt into a puddle here, but with the princess leading the way, he feels practically invincible. He completely ignores the juicy exploration rewards, mentally locking onto the main objective. He flashes a wicked grin, fully intending to snag the most OP job available. The princess flashes a confident smile, but our boy bursts her bubble by casually placing a hand on her shoulder and announcing they took a wrong turn. She quickly points out that the bridge ahead is an obvious trap designed to sweep intruders away in a perilous downward current. When he playfully asks if the terrifying assassin is actually afraid, she gets incredibly defensive, aggressively claiming she doesn't even know the meaning of the word fear. Noticing she's vibrating like a phone on silent, he raises a skeptical eyebrow. She desperately backpedals, blaming a sudden leg cramp and insisting they need a safer route. Embracing the absolute absurdity of the moment, our boy crouches down and offers her a piggyback ride. She practically short-circuits with indignation, questioning if he's looking for trouble. But our boy smoothly reminds her about that totally real leg cramp and the ticking clock. Once the sun rises and the guards are found taken care of, the queen's trackers will be right on their tail. He bluntly states it's way faster to carry her than to wait for her to stop trembling. Thoroughly flustered and making 100 excuses about how she never lets anyone carry her, she reluctantly hops onto his back. He warns her to hold on tight before sprinting directly off the ledge into absolute nothingness. The princess loses her mind as they plummet, but our boy's mutation trait activates, granting him the ability to see things invisible to the naked eye. His feet hit a completely transparent set of stairs suspended in midair, realizing they're casually strolling on an invisible path. She's utterly baffled as to how a level 2 newbie knows a secret route that even she was completely clueless about. On top of that, he isn't even breaking a sweat in an area saturated with toxic magic. Looking back at her tightly gripped arms, our boy flashes a smug grin and teases her for having a secret fear of heights. She aggressively orders him to shut up, but her mind is racing. She wonders how he can be so insanely relaxed around her terrifying aura. It doesn't feel like the arrogance of a strong warrior, but rather the comfortable vibe of someone catching up with an old friend. When she suspiciously asks if they've met before, our boy replies cryptically. He casually admits he has definitely seen her, but she has never seen him. They eventually arrive at a stunning grassy clearing filled with glowing flowers, hidden entirely behind a visual barrier. Our boy spots the next major hurdle, a massive guardian golem with a glowing red core embedded in its chest. Knowing this high-ranking monster could get his low-level self knocked out of the game with a single brush, he quickly asks his passenger if her imaginary cramp has miraculously healed. She barks at him to shut up again and gracefully leaps into action. Our boy watches in pure awe as she casually dismantles the hulking stone beast with zero effort. Even though he technically created her character build years ago, witnessing a true level 8 assassin in action leaves his jaw on the floor. The system cheerfully chimes in, offering him the rare and highly coveted Golden Maker class, perfectly willing to count her takedowns as his own party achievements. While it's an incredibly strong upper-tier job, our boy instantly declines the offer, keeping his eyes firmly on the true prize. Before they can celebrate the easy victory, a suffocating purple aura floods the entire area. The princess looks around in confusion right as a terrifying system alert announces the arrival of the old king of the mountain. Our boy realizes the true guardian of the nameless star, Old King Dramit, has finally woken up to deal with the intruders. A colossal, monstrous entity resembling a massive, nightmarish snake slithers into view. Right on cue, the system delivers one final panic-inducing warning, loudly reminding our boy that his level is absurdly far below the sanctuary's recommended level 10. The overwhelming presence of the sanctuary guardian looms over them, and the princess looks at our boy like he's lost his mind, demanding to know if he seriously expects her to fight that monstrosity. Our boy casually waves off her concern, confidently assuring her that despite its nightmarish appearance, the creature is actually quite friendly and never attacks first. The universe instantly proves him wrong as the guardian immediately launches a devastating strike right at the princess. While she dodges in pure panic and confusion, our boy is equally baffled, wondering why his supposedly helpful guide is suddenly choosing violence. The guardian booms that the challenger of the sanctuary must defeat him to prove their worth. The princess aggressively screams that she is absolutely not the one challenging anything. The guardian completely ignores her, accusing her of backing out after casually taking down the Watcher Golem and swings again, insisting no one unworthy will make it out of there. She desperately yells at our boy to stop watching and do something. Seeing the chaos, our boy suddenly puts the pieces together. On his last successful run, he cleared this zone as a max-level superhuman. Since he was basically a walking deity back then, the Guardian politely guided him to the star. Now that he's a squishy, low-level newbie, the Guardian is defaulting to its elimination protocols. The princess is losing ground fast, her body sluggish from the sanctuary's toxic air. She curses herself for falling for a phony saint's trick and is seconds away from becoming giant. Snake Chow. Just as the final blow is about to land, our boy commands Dramit to stop. Hearing its true name, the Guardian freezes solid. Our boy boldly announces his master, Wilhelm, has finally returned. The Guardian pauses, then erupts in laughter, calling our boy a delusional little bug. It declares that Wilhelm was a flawless, superhuman master deserving of absolute loyalty. But he was gone for good during the Demon Realm expedition. The Guardian opens its massive jaws to turn our boy into an afternoon snack. But our boy casually tells it to honor its contract. The Guardian freezes again, totally floored that this random human knows about a top-secret magical pact. Our boy mentally gives himself a pat on the back. According to the game's lore, anyone who claims the star becomes the mountain's true owner, and the Guardian is magically bound to obey them. Breaking that contract means being instantly erased by a curse. Since the game's mechanics are still active, His meta-knowledge is his ultimate shield. The Guardian demands to know what our boy really is. Oozing confidence, our boy orders the giant to guide him, declaring the star itself will judge his worth. The Guardian scoffs, warning him the star shows zero mercy and will instantly turn a worthless bug to ash. Unfazed, our boy challenges the beast, asking if it's just afraid the star will accept him, proving he's the new master. The Guardian calls his bluff, stating it will gladly escort him. Dealing with someone who knows about the pact is a huge pain. So the Guardian figures it can just let the star do the dirty work of getting rid of him. They arrive at the altar, and the princess stares in total disbelief. Resting on the pedestal is a glowing skull. Our boy mentally clarifies that this is the face of the goddess Leia, whose body was split into 32 pieces, called stars, serving as magical foundations for their descendants. He reaches out and grabs the skull. Instantly, a massive pillar of fire erupts, swallowing him whole. The princess screams in terror while the Guardian gloats triumphantly, happily shouting that the cocky brat got what was coming to him. But the flames clear, and our boy is completely unharmed. He internally rolls his eyes at the Guardian. He knows the star's fire only eliminates players who try to exploit bugs to bypass the boss fight. Since he technically outsmarted Dronzer with accurate blackmail, he's perfectly safe. Now for the real gamble. He knows a secret rumor that grabbing the star without a class unlocks an insanely op job. The gamble pays off. A system window chimes, converting his magic power into star force and granting him the star/and star blessing skills. He officially unlocks the hidden class star's inheritor, a broken class that makes him exponentially stronger with each star he collects. With the star absorbed, our boy turns to Isabella. He casually asks what she plans to do once her curse is broken. Still shaken from the fiery spectacle, she admits she wants to leave the desert and see her family again. Our boy offers to grant her freedom, but with one massive condition. She must serve him faithfully for 1 full year after he helps her escape. She hesitates, her royal pride clashing with her desperation. Our boy steps closer, looks her dead in the eye, and reminds her he's not her manipulative queen. He never lies. After a tense silence, the princess swallows her pride and gracefully bows, accepting the deal. Our boy praises her for the smart choice. He then turns to the towering Guardian, casually reminding the giant that as the new master of the star, he's also its new boss. He orders the fool to bow. The system interrupts with a huge notification, calculating his class acquisition results. His performance is rated as unique, shattering expectations and earning an insane score of 230 points. Top in the Hall of Fame. The constellations of fortune and adventure are practically celebrating in his honor, massively upgrading his rewards as multiple heavenly entities lock their gaze on his unbelievable progress. Meanwhile, back at the Desert Queen's throne room, a scout frantically reports that Isabella has breached the highly restricted sanctuary with a captured slave. Furious, the queen immediately orders her forces to hunt them both down and drag them back. Back in the real world, a trio of gamers is grabbing coffee and aggressively gossiping about the leaderboards. One guy is absolutely convinced that this Randolph character is actually the legendary ghost player Phantom. Nabbing such a ridiculously high score on a main quest requires a terrifying amount of game knowledge. And the guy in the black shirt notes that Phantom has been a ghost for 5 years. So his sudden appearance is about to break the internet. The guy in the red shirt is desperate to reach out to him first. But the blonde girl points out they have been searching for years with zero luck because Phantom was never an actual player until the lines between the game and reality started blurring. The guys strategized about using the newly unlocked secret auction house to bait him. In this game, the secret auction is a notorious fishing spot where veterans realist post high-tier gear at dirt cheap prices, secretly attaching tracking talismans to hunt down and rob the naive buyers. The redshirt guy heavily doubts a veteran like Phantom would ever fall for such an obvious scam. However, the blonde girl completely enters her fangirl era. Visibly trembling with excitement, she insists Phantom is exactly the kind of unhinged powerhouse who would take the bait on purpose. Just for the thrill of the fight, she demands they recruit him at all cost. Completely convinced he is some insanely wealthy CEO or corporate heir in real life, who is just as crazy as they are. Meanwhile, the system updates the Hall of Fame for the class acquisition quest. Our boy is sitting pretty in first place with 230 points, followed by Gracia and Macho is Tasty. Down in 5th place is a player named Massacre, who is absolutely fuming because only the top 2 get the privilege of accessing the secret auction house. He is completely locked out, but Massacre is a simple man with simple, aggressive solutions. He decides that if he cannot use the auction, he will just systematically take out everyone above him on the leaderboard to steal their ranks, effortlessly blasting his way through the digital competition. Back in the digital desert, a system notification cheerfully announces our boy has 100% explored the hidden sanctuary, making him the first player to ever conquer it. His reward is an epic tier teleport book that can instantly warp him to any explored location. Piggybacking his royal cargo, our boy casually mutters navigational notes like a broken GPS, leaving the Snake Princess completely bewildered. He officially hits level 3. And thanks to his Star Inheritor class and the Star Possession bonus, his stats completely explode into the high 30s. He realizes leveling up will be 10 times slower now due to his massive stat requirements. But he couldn't care less. He just scored 2 impossible items, including a shadow cloak that grants complete invisibility. The peaceful moment is violently interrupted when the giant guardian Dramit announces intruders are breaching the sanctuary. Isabella guesses the Queen's elite trackers have finally arrived. Realizing they have totally overstayed their welcome, she asks if they should team up with the giant snake to fight them off. Our boy has a much better idea. He casually delegates the entire defense to the Guardian, leaving the massive beast sweating bullets as its new master immediately sprints in the opposite direction. As they flee, they leave the trackers to face the furious Guardian. Isabella questions if ditching their giant meat shield is a smart play. Our boy explains that this is likely just an advance party, and getting surrounded by the main force is a guaranteed game over. Isabella gets entirely defensive, assuming he is leaving the Guardian behind because she is too useless to fight. Our boy quickly clarifies that Dramit literally cannot leave the sanctuary, so they're on their own regardless. He explains their only ticket out is the warp gate at the edge of the desert stage. Thanks to his star blessing, Isabella's curse is completely gone, meaning she can finally use it. The only massive problem is that the gate takes half a day to warm up. Arriving at the gate, Isabella realizes there is absolutely zero cover in the sprawling sand. Our boy reassures her that Dramit is buying them plenty of time, but he urgently needs to commune with the stars to check on the real world. He asks if he can trust her to guard his vulnerable body. Gripping her sword, she fiercely promises to protect him. Taking the system's advice to log out safely, our boy slams the exit button. He wakes up in his bathtub, still struggling with the jarring transition between his overpowered avatar and his squishy, real-world body. Checking his phone, he's incredibly relieved to find no massive disaster alerts, meaning the monsters have not fully invaded reality just yet. With the clock ticking and other players in the game, he heads out to gather intel. His first stop is a cafe where his ex is chewing out her new boyfriend on the phone for being cheap. She hangs up, mentally comparing her new cheapskate to our guy, wishing he had more money so she wouldn't have dumped him. Right on cue, our boy arrives. She instantly switches to her sweet, innocent act, praising him for always coming when she calls. He sits down, ignores her nostalgic act, and bluntly tells her to get to the point because he's busy. She tries a guilt trip, claiming she misses him and regrets their breakup. He notes with disappointment. She didn't even offer him coffee and immediately gets up to leave. She completely loses it, shouting about how much she missed him. Our boy just shuts down her ego. He coldly asks if her boyfriend knows she's fishing for a backup, suggesting she delete her couple photos before trying to scam an ex. He walks out, leaving her fuming in total humiliation. Outside, our boy is shocked by his own emotional calm. He realizes his game avatar's confidence is bleeding into his real-world personality. Before he can process this, a commotion erupts down the street. An unhinged man is holding a terrified girl by her hair. Waving a knife around and screaming about being stalked, the crowd watches in horror as the man prepares to strike the girl. But before the blade drops, our boy steps into the danger zone. Moving with frightening speed, he grabs the armed man directly by the face. As the attacker panics, our boy stares him down and says, "Playtime is over." The man demands to know who he is, screaming to be released. As our boy tightens his grip, the attacker's wrist cries out in agony, feeling a second away from snapping. The protagonist mentally notes he doesn't even need his golden rule fragment to win this. His real-world body has upgraded into a serious weapon. Done playing around, he tosses the thug aside and asks the victim if she's okay. The woman looks up with teary eyes and a huge blush, stammering that she doesn't know how to thank him. The MC narrows his eyes, realizing this is the same woman from earlier, and asks if she wants to say something specific to him. She quickly denies it, claiming he just looks a lot like someone she knows. Their awkward reunion is cut short when the attacker launches a sneak attack from behind. Screaming for the ambassador to be taken down, the lady shouts a warning, but the protagonist sidesteps the sloppy ambush with zero effort. In one fluid motion, he guides the man's face into the pavement, knocking him out. The girl stares at him in awe. Naturally, the police arrive as the dust settles and demand our boy come to the station. The victim steps in, defending him as her rescuer and clarifying she filed the stalking report. The officers refuse to listen, arguing an assault occurred, so he must be questioned. She points out the man had a knife, but the police cite procedure, asking who takes responsibility if they let a suspect go. And something happens. The MC sighs, stating he doesn't have time to waste on this nonsense. Deciding playtime is over, the woman plays her trump card. She introduces herself as Kim Hannah, a reporter for CK Broadcasting, and suggests they stop harassing an innocent man unless they want their incompetence. All over the evening news, the officers realize they've stepped on a massive public relations landmine. To make it worse, the crowd recognizes the reporter from a viral video where she saved a child from a monster. Realizing they're outmatched, the cops fold, agreeing to only take the unconscious attacker. With the problem handled, Hannah thanks the protagonist and hands him her business card. She explains she covers Dimension Warriors, the media's name for the people who fought the monster invasion. The Mick mentally chuckles, realizing the public has branded players as heroes rather than admit a game merged with reality. Hannah politely asks for his contact information, but before he can answer, the absolute worst-case scenario comes sprinting into view. His ex-girlfriend latches onto his arm, completely failing to read the room and loudly fretting over whether he's hurt. Hannah raises an eyebrow, asking if this new arrival is his girlfriend. Our boy doesn't hesitate for a microsecond. He forcefully shoves his ex away, cleanly denying any connection whatsoever, and tells the reporter he doesn't have a business card, but will gladly put his number directly into her phone. The ex is left frozen in sheer embarrassment as the reporter hands over her device. Looking at the freshly entered contact, Hannah notes that Park and Young is a really nice name. She casually offers to treat him to coffee or a meal the next day if he's free. The MC smoothly accepts and they part ways. The ex is left standing all alone, gritting her teeth as she bitterly fumes that he's still the same guy she dumped. As the reporter walks away, her phone rings with a call from a cheerful colleague. The caller informs her that their chief has left her a massive assignment before leaving on a business trip. She has been booked for an exclusive interview with Gracia, the legendary hero who saved America. Hannah is completely baffled as to why an international superstar would be assigned to her, But her co-worker drops the bomb that the great superhero specifically requested her by name and is flying all the way to Korea just for this meeting. Meanwhile, back in the digital gauntlet, the Snake Princess is running on fumes after taking down a horde of watchers. One surviving enemy delivers a classic villain ultimatum, demanding she returns to Her Majesty. Hand over her little servant, and all will be forgiven. Isabella completely rejects the offer, calling him an utter fool. The Watchers prepare to deal with the traitor, but their plan is severely delayed by a massive eruption of blue light. A system window announces a warp activation. Leaving the enemies entirely confused by the sudden light show, the protagonist confidently steps through the portal, opening his eyes to the chaos. Isabella lights up with immense relief and asks if his communion with the star was successful. He confirms it just as a watcher aggressively screams for them to be taken care of immediately. The MC decides to test drive his new upgrades. He tells Isabella that since she kept her promise to protect his defenseless body, he will keep his promise to her. A blinding aura of light explodes around him. The system announces the activation of the Star Inheritor exclusive skill, / in a blazing 41 seconds of pure power. He completely vaporizes a massive chunk of the enemy forces. He stands amidst the glowing aftermath, dramatically declaring this their moment of liberation and telling Isabella to rejoice. Isabella stares at him with burning anticipation, thoroughly mesmerized by the sheer magnitude of the saint's power. The MC turns to her and offers one final out, stating that he won't stop her if she still wants to return to her people. She smiles brightly, firmly deciding to stay by his side. Instantly, the system chimes in, notifying them that Isabella's limit curse has been completely nullified by the star's blessing. With the immediate threat neutralized, they use the warp to drop into the central country, specifically arriving in Arcana. The system greets them with a dire warning, labeling Arfana as the golden city of extreme materialism and explicitly advising against entering. If you're completely broke, the city is aggressively flashy, and the MC quickly realizes this is a place where gold is the only language that matters. He notes they're going to need some serious cash just to get through the night. Isabella proudly presents a bag containing 300 gold, confidently claiming it will easily cover a night of food and lodging. The protagonist just looks at her with sheer pity. She defends her stash, pointing out that back in the desert, 300 gold could buy 10 servants, which is 10 times what he was initially worth. The MC bluntly shatters her economic confidence, explaining that the cost of living here is nothing like the desert slums. Isabella starts to panic, asking how they're supposed to survive. The MC simply points behind them and asks why she's stressing when there's literally money lying all over the place. She's utterly bewildered, scanning the area for this supposed free cash. The protagonist just smiles, assuring her that he happens to be incredibly lucky. Right as his hidden trait, Golden Blessing, officially activates. The narration officially introduces Arcana as the Golden City, a flashy playground where money is the absolute law. Naturally, the epicenter of this wealth is the massive Hudson Casino, which is exactly where our boy and Isabella currently stand. As the protagonist confidently strolls toward the entrance, a massive bodyguard blocks his path, demanding a 10,000 gold deposit. The Snake Princess's jaw practically hits the floor. She furiously whispers that after buying their new clothes, they only have a pathetic 100 gold left. Our boy smoothly waves off her panic, noting their initial stash wasn't enough anyway, and they desperately needed the wardrobe upgrade. With the line behind them loudly complaining about beggars wasting time, our boy calmly drops a piece of collateral on the counter, a tear of the Fairy Queen. This ultra-rare item shatters the limit cap on high-level gear and survives even if the equipment is destroyed. The guard's attitude does a complete 180. He instantly bows and escorts them straight to the VIP room, leaving the angry crowd in pure shock. Inside, Isabella demands to know what he just handed over. The protagonist casually explains it is a sanctuary reward worth at least 1 million gold. assuring her he will simply win enough at the tables to buy it back. Cut to our boy absolutely cleaning house. Gamblers are losing their minds as his stash balloons from 250 gold to over 1.4 million. The protagonist mentally praises his golden blessing trait while the poor dealer physically trembles. Isabella is practically vibrating, declaring they are rich. But our boy quickly corrects her that it is his money. The fun stops when a manager approaches, informing him he can keep his winnings but is permanently banned from the casino. The problem is that every other guest is blindly copying his bets, financially ruining the house. Our boy agrees to cash out but demands a private meeting with the boss. The manager refuses, but the protagonist smirks, telling him to just pass the message along because the boss will definitely want to see him. Up in a luxury office, someone is actively scanning the collateral with a level 8 observer skill. The man is baffled, knowing the tier is exclusively carried by Fairy Queen Knights and requires an elite squad to acquire. When the manager relays our boy's bold message, the casino boss, Mr. Hudson, is amused by the sheer audacity and orders him brought up for tea. During the meeting, Hudson silently notes the protagonist looks way too weak to have earned the tier. Playing it cool, the wealthy collector claims to be a casual talisman enthusiast and offers 2 million gold. Isabella internally screams, but our boy doesn't blink, demanding a cool 20 million. The boss drops the friendly act, arguing it is just a refining material. Our boy smoothly counters that while he might not value it, the man sitting across from him desperately does. Sipping his tea, the protagonist absolutely shatters Hudson's facade. He reveals he knows the casino owner needs the tier to bypass the level 10 requirement for the city council, something a non-combatant like him could never achieve normally. And the only reason a businessman wants political power is to finally be acknowledged by the noble family of his. Sarah Serengeti. Hudson freezes, utterly paralyzed. Our boy internally recalls Serengeti's game lore as the Snow White Knight, who lost her legs to the Demon King while trying to save Wilhelm. Back when Pangaea was just a game, she handed him a locket featuring her Hudson. That was the exact moment our boy realized NPCs with newly added data were actually trapped. Real-world players. Desperate, the casino boss demands to know how he obtained this highly classified information. Calculating that the man holds valuable intel, our boy smoothly lies, claiming the stars told him. He offers to hand over the talisman completely free on one condition. Hudson must tell him his honest life story. Our boy knows this is a massive ask in this world. Hunter NPCs ruthlessly execute exposed players, making sharing personal backstory equivalent to social ruin. Yet, he is entirely confident the desperate lover will risk it for his. Sure enough, Hudson pulls out a matching photo necklace of Serengeti and agrees. He begins his tale, stating Serengeti was a brave knight in the Demon Realm expedition led by the 8 heroes. Our boy abruptly cuts him off, utterly baffled, insisting Wilhelm led that expedition alone. The boss looks at him like he is crazy. Explaining the famous lore is that the 8 heroes jointly led it, but spectacularly failed due to internal conflict. He specifically names Gracia as the second strongest hero. The scene dramatically shifts to the real-world US, where the legendary hero Gracia is staring at his phone. He is reading Kim Hannah's breaking news report about the man who wrote a monster out of the sky. And Seoul, an assistant, interrupts, asking why he insists on flying to Korea during a global crisis instead of just summoning the reporter. Gracia firmly shuts her down. Staring at the grainy photo of the protagonist, he declares he must confirm this in person, having a strong feeling this man is the exact friend he has been desperately searching for. When Hudson casually drops the lore that the Snow White Knight was part of the Demon Realm expedition led by the 8 heroes, our boy is completely paralyzed by the sheer absurdity of the statement. He mentally screams, demanding to know what on earth Hudson means by the 8 heroes. Considering the entire expedition was famously a solo carry by Wilhelm, Hudson politely corrects him, claiming that while Wilhelm is certainly the most famous, history remembers the expedition as a joint operation that failed spectacularly, purely due to the intense infighting between those exact 8 leaders. Our boy is left reeling, utterly baffled by this completely rewritten history. The scene hard cuts back to the real world, where our boy is violently zoning out while chewing on a very expensive piece of steak. He is currently sitting in a high-end restaurant with the reporter, looking thoroughly exhausted. She notices his dead-eyed stare and nervously asks if the meat is not to his taste. The protagonist smoothly reassures her that the food is fine, blaming his lethargy on a rough night. Internally, he bitterly complains that demanding Hudson's life story resulted in the grown man completely bawling his eyes out and Lord dumping until dawn. He couldn't log out all night, which is exactly why he ended up 10 minutes late to this thank you meal. The reporter humbly notes that treating him to a fancy dinner is the absolute least she could do. After he saved her from a stalker with a blade, our boy brushes it off as just doing the right thing, but she smiles, insisting that stepping in takes real courage. Her warm appreciation is suddenly interrupted when her eyes lock onto a table just behind him. She leans in and points out that the woman glaring daggers at the back of his head is the exact same girl who ambushed him the other day. Our boy mentally groans. He recognizes the guy sitting with his ex, a blue-haired meathead with the energy of someone who spends way too much time watching alpha male podcasts. The protagonist remembers seeing his obnoxious face plastered all over the ex's social media. Music, the reporter politely whispers, asking if things are too uncomfortable and if they should move tables. Our boy doesn't even bother looking back, firmly stating there is absolutely nothing between them anymore, and taking another bite of his steak. Unfortunately, the blue-haired bully decides he needs to assert dominance. He loudly marches over, aggressively accusing the protagonist of stalking his precious girlfriend. All the way to this restaurant, he calls our boy a shameless, pathetic loser who needs to stop clinging to the past, while the ex sits in the background, practically glowing with smug satisfaction. The bully leans in tight, threatening to literally end him if he ever follows them again. Our boy doesn't even flinch, completely ignoring the empty threat. However, the reporter is absolutely not having it. She slams her hands on the table, furiously demanding to know what gives him the right to talk to someone like that. The bully sneers at her, asking how much a rental date like her costs. Assuming she is just paid company, he pulls out a stack of cash, throws it right at her chest, and offers to double her rate if she takes her filthy self somewhere else. The reporter responds to the generous offer by winding up and slapping the absolute soul out of him, loudly branding him a crazy bastard. Enraged, the blue-haired bully raises his fist to strike her back. Without even getting it from his chair, our boy casually extends his leg. The bully violently trips over the perfectly placed foot and eats the floor in a state of sheer confusion. Our boy sighs, stating that the playtime is over, while mildly noting to the reporter that throwing the first slap wasn't exactly the moral high ground either. The bully furiously scrambles to get up, but before he can even lift his shoulders, our boy casually plants his shoe directly onto the side of the man's head, pinning his face firmly into the restaurant tiles. He repeats his warning to stop, leaving the bully utterly paralyzed and terrified by the crushing, superhuman weight holding him down. The ex-girlfriend panics, screaming at her boyfriend to get up and stop embarrassing her. Humiliated beyond belief, the bully manages to choke out a challenge to take it outside. Our boy rejects the offer, pointing out that the bully picked the fight, and there is no need to make the afternoon any more tiring. Pushed past his breaking point, the bully decides to go nuclear. He uses an artifact, instantly summoning a flashy set of armor right in the middle of the dining room. The surrounding customers completely lose their minds, screaming and filming as they realize the guy is an actual Dimension warrior. Riding a massive ego trip, the armored bully grabs the protagonist by the neck and brutally slams him into the ground. The reporter screams his name in pure panic, However, she quickly notices that despite being violently chokeslammed, our boy is lying on the floor looking completely and utterly bored. He casually notes that the guy is a player, but wonders how someone so weak could possibly be acting this arrogant. The system chimes, activating his hidden trait, Great Sage, allowing him to peek at the bully's stats. The readout is frankly pathetic. The bully is a level 4 spearman. The narration smoothly explains Panja's leveling system, noting that higher levels require astronomically more experience, especially for players with multiple talents. Our boy, whose base stats are already sitting at a monstrous 36 across the board, alongside a massive laundry list of talents, realizes the bully's secret. This guy is a total coward who spent the entire tutorial hiding, managed to survive through sheer dumb luck, and immediately logged out the second he could, never returning to the game. Before our boy can properly humble him, the ex-girlfriend scurries over, begging the bully to leave before the cops arrive. The meathead puffs out his chest, warning the protagonist to never look at his girl again, and struts away like he just won the world championship. The reporter is absolutely furious, demanding they call the police immediately. Our boy casually dusts himself off and tells her to drop it, reminding her she did technically assault him with a slap first. Their argument is abruptly cut short when the entire restaurant violently shakes. The customers scream as a massive earthquake rattles the building. Our boy's heart freezes as he realizes another monster erosion is starting right on top of them. Giant, grotesque worms violently burst through the concrete. The reporter panics, screaming that they need to run, but our boy quickly covers her mouth to keep her quiet. He analyzes the monsters, recognizing them as cheat worms, low-level scavengers that only feast on the fallen and absolutely will not attack living humans, unless provoked first. He figures they are perfectly safe as long as no one does anything incredibly stupid. Naturally, the blue-haired idiot decides to be a hero, hoping to show off for his girlfriend. The bully charges forward and icily slices a worm in half with a single strike. High on his own delusion, he shouts that he is going to take down every last freak in the room. The terrified crowd starts cheering him on, completely inflating his ego. Our boy turns to the reporter with stone-serious eyes and orders her to run as far away from that specific idiot as humanly possible. Just as the bully starts celebrating his easy victory, a thick crimson-red fog rapidly floods the street, completely blinding everyone. The bully coughs, utterly confused by the sudden weather change. The silence is shattered by a deeply ominous voice right behind him, furiously demanding to know who just destroyed her children. A bone-chilling system window pops up for our boy, announcing the arrival of an elite boss monster, the Cheat Member. The system helpfully recommends a 20-man raid party to survive. Our boy is currently a party of one. Through the thick, blinding red fog, the elite boss is grinning in the shadows, actively possessing the blue-haired meathead. The bully is completely out of his mind, actively hallucinating from the cheatworm's toxic essence effect, genuinely believing a terrified civilian coughing in the mist is a monster. He raises his weapon and screams for them to vanish, completely losing control of his own body, before the idiot can officially add, causing irreparable harm to his long list of terrible life choices. Our boy decides to intervene. With zero hesitation, the protagonist casually slices the bully's arm clean off. The meathead hits the floor, screaming in absolute agony, while our boy calmly notes that he really didn't want to get involved. But attempting to strike down a civilian is where he firmly draws the line. He turns his attention to the fog and calls out the real mastermind hiding in the mist. The elite boss laughs, genuinely impressed by the brutal efficiency. The massive cheat mamba slithers out, noting that a very tasty-looking human has finally stepped up to the plate. The raid boss points directly at our boy, who stands there without twitching a single muscle. Somewhere in the blinding red haze, the reporter is blindly whispering his name, desperately trying to find him. The scene shifts directly into the heat of the battle. The protagonist is actively going toe-to-toe with the massive boss. internally thanking the Mamba for the catastrophic weather change. The zero visibility environment gave him the perfect cover to securely transform into his combat gear without the entire restaurant filming him for social media. Still, he mentally admits that having cool gear doesn't make this a walk in the park. If he hadn't fully memorized the specific boss's attack patterns back in the game, he would already be minced meat. The monster is thoroughly confused. It realizes the human's base physical stats are nothing special. Yet, he is flawlessly dodging every single devastating strike, as if he is reading the script ahead of time. When the protagonist attempts a quick counterattack, the Mamba easily brushes it off, smugly declaring his offensive efforts completely useless. Our boy isn't bothered in the slightest. He mentally tracks the boss's attack rotation, predicting that the vicious crimson spray is coming up next. He knows even a single drop of that will inflict a nasty status ailment. The Mamba openly mocks his astonishing evasion, pointing out that surviving means absolutely nothing if none of his attacks can actually pierce. It scales. The protagonist completely ignores the trash talk, confidently promising to plant his blade directly between the monster's eyebrows very soon. Deciding it is time to stop playing around, our boy pulls out his trump card, the incredibly rare Terry of the Fairy Queen. He immediately equips the epic tier Hermes' boots. The system chimes in, explaining that these boots, modeled after the god of wind, normally require incredibly high base stats to wear, but thanks to the Fairy Queen's tier drastically lowering all equipment requirements by 20%, they slip right on, granting a massive agility boost and unlocking the swift skill. He doesn't stop there, immediately throwing on Michaela's armor and helmet to complete his high-level loadout. The system joyfully announces the activation of the Celestial Dragon Set option alongside the boot's swift ability. While glowing with his newly equipped power, our boy sends a quick sheepish mental apology to Hudson. He genuinely hadn't planned on instantly burning the priceless collateral they had just finished, aggressively negotiating over, but promises himself he will figure out a way to keep his end of the bargain later. Triggering the swift option, the protagonist rockets forward at an impossible speed. The monster is completely caught off guard, cursing him as it desperately swings its massive tail. The brutal tail whip pushes our boy back, but he easily blocks the heavy impact, officially activating the Celestial Dragon Armor's defensive skill. The Mamba sneers, calling him a rat for having. Our boy simply braces himself, recognizing this as the boss's absolute final attack pattern. He knows that if he tanks this, he wins the fight. The monster roars, unleashing a massive, unavoidable wave of toxic poison fog to melt him on the spot. Right on cue, a system notification pops up, announcing a perfect synergy between the Celestial Dragon Armor and the Swift skill. The Gale ability violently erupts. A massive hurricane force wind blasts through the restaurant, completely shredding the Mamba's lethal poison fog into absolute nothingness. The monster is utterly baffled, staring in sheer disbelief as its ultimate attack gets casually blown away by a localized tornado. The narration smoothly explains the cheap Mamba's critical design flaw. Its attack rotation strictly consists of 4 moves: a dodge, a crimson spray, a needle attack, and finally the poison fog. After burning through all 4, the boss is temporarily forced into a confused, stunned state where it cannot move a single muscle before the cycle resets with doubled strength. Our boy knows this is his one and only window. Seeing the protagonist charging right at its face, the paralyzed monster suddenly panics, desperately begging him to wait a second. Our boy absolutely does not wait, politely reminding the beast about his earlier promise. He drives his sword straight through the monster's head, planting the blade perfectly between its eyebrows. The dust finally settles as the massive elite boss collapses. A system window cheerfully pops up to congratulate our boy, confirming the cheap Mamba has been defeated with a flawless 100% contribution rate. He absorbs a fragment of the broken golden rule, leaving him with 10 minutes of active use and a cooldown timer of roughly 48 hours. The system also chimes in to announce that Panjay's collapse has officially reached 9.1%, rewarding him with a set of lucky dice, just as the blinding red fog completely clears. As visibility returns, the terrified restaurant patrons peek out from their hiding spots. The reporter frantically looks around and immediately spots the armored figure of our boy. Recognizing her savior from the other day, she desperately calls out to him. Our boy, aggressively refusing to engage in an awkward hero reunion, simply stares at her in silence, activates his invisibility cloak, and completely vanishes into thin air. A few moments later, he casually jogs back up to her wearing his perfectly clean civilian clothes. Smoothly playing the role of a concerned bystander, he claims they got separated in the pure chaos. The reporter assures him she is fine, but her sharp eyes immediately lock onto a glaring detail. There is a distinct smear of fresh monster ichor under his fingernails. Our boy tries to laugh it off, claiming a random monster's ichor must have splashed on him. The reporter narrows her eyes, completely destroying his alibi by pointing out that his casual clothes look fresh out of a laundry commercial, yet only his fingernails managed to get dirty. She also notes how suspiciously calm he was the exact second the grotesque monsters burst through the floor. Realizing his cover story is rapidly sinking, our boy aggressively pivots. He throws on a mask of pure terror, insisting he was so paralyzed by fear he doesn't even remember what he was doing, heavily relying on self-deprecation to prove what a massive coward he is. The reporter doesn't buy a single word, entirely convinced he is hiding a massive secret. The narration kicks in to deliver a sharp reality check. Just days after the first dimensional war, the second unprovoked monster invasion has terrified the public. Dimension warriors warn that these attacks will only escalate, forcing citizens to hide indoors. While the evening news criticizes the government for downplaying the disaster to protect the economy, meanwhile, deep inside a luxurious boardroom, a group of powerful people gather, smelling of expensive cologne and corruption. This is the player-led Hero Alliance. Realizing the government has lost control, the alliance leader, Park Taiwan, declares it is the perfect time to emerge from the shadows. An analyst pulls up blurry CTV footage of our hero soloing the cheap Mamba. She suggests the armored man might be the legendary player known as Randolph, the same person who just stole first place on the main quest rankings. A skeptic argues that a fresh level 5 player couldn't possibly equip epic tier Hermes' boots. Dewo easily dismisses the level cap issue, assuming a high-tier talisman was used, noting that another famous player named Phantom recently vanished right before this mysterious Randolph appeared. Dewo orders his team to recruit the armored hero at all costs to help them stop the incoming Command Rift. Back in the game, Hudson is having a spectacular meltdown. Standing inside a dimly lit room, the wealthy casino boss furiously demands to know if our hero actually burned the priceless tire of the Fairy Queen. Our hero casually confirms it. Hudson looks like his soul is trying to exit his body, shrieking that the talisman was meant for him. Our hero smoothly clarifies that he promised to help him achieve his goals, not just hand over the artifact. Internally, the protagonist is sweating, knowing he can't admit he burned a 1,000,000 gold item to defeat a giant snake in the real world. He puts on his best poker face and tells Hudson he simply destroyed the item to cure his false hope. Hudson is practically in tears, asking how he can possibly trust the protagonist. Now, our hero just grins, promising a compelling reason to believe. The scene immediately drops the trio into the absolute worst place imaginable: the filthy underground sewers of Arcana. Hudson is trembling behind the Snake Princess, furious that they are wandering through a disgusting dungeon. Our hero explains they need to set a fast travel waypoint using his epic tier teleport book, since exploring the massive city of Arcana would take weeks. This localized sewer dungeon is the fastest shortcut. Hudson completely loses his mind, screaming that attempting to clear the sewers with a 3-person party is a terrible idea. The boss strictly requires a coordinated 6-person party of level 8 players. Right on cue, a massive, grotesque mutant sewer rat drops from the ceiling. The system flashes a raid boss warning. Hudson braces for a slow, tactical defense, but our hero doesn't even bother drawing his weapon. He casually calls out the monster's position at 10 o'clock. Without a moment of hesitation, Isabella blitzes forward. In a blinding flash of steel, she completely vaporizes the massive raid boss before it can twitch. Our hero internally smirks, noting the monster's speed is irrelevant when your snake princess has combat training that breaks the game's logic. The protagonist turns back to the utterly paralyzed casino boss. Flashing a confident grin, he tells the trembling man not to doubt him, officially declaring that when he makes a promise, it gets done. The scene shifts to 2 sharply dressed men in suits looking completely defeated. The captain of the player-led Hero Alliance and his subordinate are reviewing all surrounding CCTV footage from the restaurant attack, but they are finding nothing. The captain sighs, noting that the complete lack of evidence is enough to make a ghost cry. The subordinate suggests they directly interrogate the blue-haired bully to find out what he saw. The captain instantly shoots the idea down, pointing out that the guy has completely lost his mind from the trauma of having his arm severed. So, questioning him would be a waste of time. The subordinate then suggests barging into CK Broadcasting to demand answers from Kim Hannah. The captain heavily advises against poking that hornet's nest. He reminds his partner that Gracia, the undisputed strongest player in the world, has flown all the way to Korea for the sole purpose of doing an exclusive one-on-one interview with that reporter. A brief cut shows Gracia politely introducing himself to the reporter, clearly treating her with immense respect. Back in the investigation room, the captain genuinely wonders if the legendary American powerhouse fell in love with the reporter at first sight. No matter the reason, he's certain they need to stay as far away from her as possible. He suspects this mysterious new player Randolph might actually be the missing phantom. But if Grouchy is somehow involved, the captain knows that upsetting him, even slightly, could get their entire alliance instantly crushed. Meanwhile, in a darker corner of the city, a brutal reality check is unfolding. A ruthless player stands casually over the severely beaten form of another player. The victim coughs, desperately asking why he is doing this, reminding his attacker that Gracia explicitly banned ping in the real world so everyone could prepare for the monster invasions. The assailant absolutely does not care. He effortlessly lands a final blow, mockingly telling the fading man to go ahead and ask Gracia to save him now. A system window chimes for the assailant, officially announcing that player Hunter has entered the rankings, granting access to the secret auction. The assailant smirks at his new status, checking the absurdly high scores on the main quest leaderboard. He's entirely convinced that the player named Randolph is actually Phantom in disguise. Knowing Phantom's aggressive playstyle, the assailant figures his target will inevitably rush straight into the next main quest. Gripping his weapon, the assailant vows to camp the quest line and personally eliminate him. Back with our chaotic trio, the protagonist is having a fantastic day, internally celebrating the loot they acquired from vaporizing the sewer rat. He successfully harvested a Retori from the mutant monster, a highly toxic material that usually causes grotesque mutations. However, our hero notes that thanks to his hidden beast lord trait, he can safely use these corrupted souls to drastically speed up his high dragon's evolution. Returning to the present, he casually asks Hudson if he tied up his loose ends back in the city. The casino boss confirms he officially liquidated his massive gambling empire, exactly as instructed. He admits he'll miss the casino, but securing his marriage to Serengeti is worth any sacrifice, noting that corporate vultures were already circling his business. Internally, Hudson is completely sold on our hero's saint's persona. He's still absolutely mind-blown by Isabella soloing a raid boss and deeply impressed by the protagonist's flawless tactical commands. He resolves to trust them completely, terrified of missing this golden opportunity. Our hero smiles, mentally celebrating that his walking bank account is now fully committed, meaning his money worries are over for the foreseeable future. He tells Hudson he can now strictly focus on reaching level 10. The casino boss eagerly asks where they are heading next. Our hero casually announces they're going to the place that will finally grant his wish, which just so happens to be the exact starting location for main quest 3, the Tower of Spirits. The trio arrives in what looks like a completely ordinary, quiet woodland. Hudson squints, thoroughly unimpressed, asking if this basic-looking forest is really the legendary location. Our hero corrects him, explaining that this is the rustling forest, the hidden entrance to the tower. They stop before a massive, lifeless tree. The protagonist notes that spirit trees are supposed to open a temporary magical path to the spiritual realm. However, this specific tree has been lifeless for a long time. In fact, he looks around and observes that the entire forest is decaying, having failed to birth a single new spirit in ages. Deciding that waiting around is a waste of time, our hero opts for a highly aggressive approach. He draws his sword and violently slashes the lifeless spirit tree. Hudson absolutely panics, screaming about why the saint is actively destroying their only entrance. Right on cue, a lethal bolt of lightning rockets from the woods, aiming straight for the casino boss. Isabella moves in a blur, flawlessly deflecting the strike just in time. The attacker steps out of the shadows, a level 9 high dryad, the absolute master of the forest. It praises the human woman's reflexes but is completely furious. It scolds them for daring to strike a sacred tree after it graciously showed them mercy by letting them wander through its domain. Suddenly, the brush rustles and over 50 level 7 forest keepers emerge, completely surrounding the trio. Isabella quickly calculates their incredibly slim odds of survival, internally preparing to grab the protagonist and evacuate him the second things go south. Our hero doesn't even break a sweat. He steps forward calmly, telling the dryad not to take its anger out on innocent bystanders, and readily admits he's the one who damaged the tree. He smoothly points out that the dryad wouldn't have shown itself unless he forced it out. The forest master calls him insane and prepares to order their elimination. Holding his ground, our hero asks if the dryad is really just going to watch his entire forest rot into dust. Flashing a confident smile, he offers a huge deal. If the dryad opens the gate to the Tower of Spirits, our hero will personally revitalize the ailing woodland by gifting it with new spirits. The dryad scoffs at the sheer nonsense, arguing the tower is strictly for the chosen, completely dismissing the idea that a random human could last inside. Our hero privately agrees. Normally, entering the tower requires a ridiculous list of specific talents, endless quest chains, and sheer dumb luck to beat the impossible odds. But that logic only applies if you were an ordinary character. Dropping the polite act, our hero tells the dryad to be quiet and open the gate, instantly activating his hidden trait through his nature affinity. Bathed in a massive calming green aura that immediately resonates with the fading woods, our hero firmly declares he'll take full responsibility for saving the forest. The angry mob of forest keepers is furious, screaming for the intruders to be immediately taken down for harming the sacred wood. Isabella tenses up, calculating escape routes, but the level 9 high dryad abruptly raises his hand, instantly silencing the entire forest. He marches right up to our hero, sternly demanding he honor his outrageous promise. Our hero flashes a super confident smile, swearing he always keeps his word and will absolutely bring spirits back to the lifeless woods. The dryad openly admits he expects the human to fail, casually noting it won't be too late to make him pay after he messes up. He orders the trio to follow, leading them deep into the fading woods until they reach a massive, ancient rock known as the Spirit's Remains. The dryad explains the stone is the literal key to the tower's gate. He delivers a grim ultimatum. If our hero succeeds, he'll get a fitting reward. But if he fails, he'll immediately become premium fertilizer for the trees. The system officially chimes in, assigning a subquest titled Return Spirit to the Forest. The failure conditions include a massive 30-point honor penalty and a full-scale battle with the forest. Our hero chuckles to himself, noting how wonderfully grandiose that failure state sounds. The Dryad tells them to brace themselves and activates the portal, bathing the entire area in a massive flash of white light. When the light fades, Hudson looks around completely confused and asks if they're finally inside the tower. Our hero corrects the panicked casino boss, explaining they are just in the waiting room and need permission to enter the actual dungeon. Right on cue, an adorable little floating spirit, basically a tiny glowing ball with big eyes and a helmet, pops into view. Hudson's capitalist brain immediately kicks in, asking if they should capture it. Our hero quickly shuts down that idea, cooing over how cute the little guy is. The tiny spirit senses our hero's nature affinity, pulsing from his hidden trait, and formally grants him permission to climb. It then turns to Hudson and Isabella, asking our hero if these companions are people he can truly trust. Our hero gives a very non-committal shrug and says he supposes so. Satisfied, the spirit grants them entry but reveals a huge catch. They must each pass through the tower's gates entirely alone. Isabella confidently promises she'll be right back, while Hudson completely freaks out as his body begins to dematerialize into light. The spirit casually mentions time flows differently inside the tower, so they should climb without worrying about the outside world. With his party gone, the system recommends climbing the basic towers, but our hero finds himself standing before a massive, imposing violet door that literally has a face and two giant arms holding itself shut. The narration explains the mechanics of the Tower of Spirits. Every climber is assigned a specific gate based on their elemental affinity. Isabella naturally got the Gate of Wind, while Hudson was sent to the Gate of Water, with each gate presenting trials perfectly tailored to the climber. However, our hero has absolutely no idea what he's looking at. He realizes that since he created his character Randolph with an affinity for literally every single element, the system doesn't know what to do with him. The face on the massive door slowly opens its eyes, thoroughly amazed by his existence. It notes he possesses conflicting elements like water and fire, or light and darkness, yet they're somehow perfectly unified by the all-encompassing void element. The door decides void is too simple a term, officially branding it the Gate of Chaos. It warns our hero that this gate has never been opened, and if he's consumed by the chaos inside, he will never return. Undeterred, our boy steps through the heavy doors and enters a long, dark corridor. He reflects on his 5-year daily obsession with Pansia. He knows more about this brutal world than any other living player. Yet, the game constantly throws completely unknown, insanely difficult mysteries at him. Music. He breaks into a genuine smile, admitting that this exact thrill is precisely why he absolutely loves this nightmare of a game. Since the Gate of Chaos is opening for the very first time, he confidently declares he will be the absolute first to clear it. His confident monologue is brutally interrupted when a man with long white hair and a black cloak slowly turns to face him. Our boy's heart practically stops. It is Wilhelm, his own maxed-out rank-fine original character, is standing right in front of him. Before he can even process why the game's ultimate hero is appearing as a trial, Wilhelm violently launches forward with a devastating attack. Our boy barely manages to dodge the strike in a heart-stopping moment. He internally screams in pure panic. Realizing he has to fight the literal strongest being in existence, sweating profusely, he mentally curses Pansia. Thoroughly convinced this trash game is explicitly designed to be completely impossible to clear. Despite taking a direct hit from the absolute strongest character in the game's history, our boy quickly notices a glaring mechanical flaw in the trial. The fake Wilhelm's blade lands a solid strike on his arm, but instead of slicing right through, it merely dents his armor. The protagonist's gamer brain immediately does the math. The trial perfectly copied Wilhelm's outer appearance and terrifying skills, but heavily nerfed his base stats to match our boy's current level. With the fear of an instant defeat completely removed, the protagonist goes on the offensive. A flurry of system windows confirms the activation of his full gear set, perfectly syncing his celestial dragon armor with his Hermes boots to trigger the gale synergy. Massive wings of wind erupt from his back, completely catching the fake Wilhelm off guard as our boy physically shoves the legendary hero backward. The illusion tries to regain control, easily dodging a counterattack while arrogantly asking if the protagonist is foolishly chasing past glory. Our boy doesn't even dignify the philosophical trash talk with a real answer, calling the illusion a cheap knockoff. He grabs the fake Wilhelm by the head and shatters the construct. Taking a quick breather, he downs an expensive HP potion, mentally sending a massive thank you note to Hudson's wallet for funding his extreme hoarding habits. However, his relief is incredibly short-lived. The shadows in the corridor begin to twist, and an entire army of fake Wilhelms materializes from the darkness. Our boy swallows hard, suddenly realizing that if he hadn't brought a literal mountain of healing items, his game would have been over for good. The scene briefly shifts to the real world inside a polished broadcasting building. The legendary hero Grasha formally wraps up his exclusive interview, and the reporter respectfully thanks him for traveling all the way to Korea. Grasha waves off the pleasantries, smoothly shifting gears to his actual agenda. He tells her that now that the official cameras are off, he has a highly personal, off-their-accord question regarding the mysterious man she wrote about in her recent article. Leaning forward with intense focus, the absolute strongest player in reality demands she'll tell him every single microscopic detail about her savior without leaving out a single breath. Back in the digital meat grinder, our boy's looking like a chewed-up dog toy. He has officially battled his way through at least 100 Wilhelm clones, burning through his entire potion supply in the process. Exhausted, he notes that the enemies have finally stopped spawning, and there are no more stairs leading upward, meaning this brutal gauntlet must be the top floor. He assumes he has finally cleared the dungeon, but a shadowy chaos spirit abruptly materializes in the room. It stares at the heavily bruised druid in pure amusement, mocking him for thinking the trial is over. With a wicked grin, the spirit drops a massive reality check, claiming that the 100 clones he just survived were nothing but a warm-up. It points to the massive door at the end of the hall, cheerfully warning him that thousands of enhanced illusions are waiting on the other side, and strongly advises him to just give up, since the stage is explicitly designed to be impossible. Our boy simply stares at the entity with a completely deadpan expression. Without saying a single word, he turns his back on the spirit and starts walking directly toward the imposing door. The dungeon NPCs instantly panic, dropping their arrogant act. Multiple spirits scramble to block his path, desperately begging him to stop while offering insane bribes to make him turn around. One spirit promises to forge a special contract equal to a legendary star contract. Another frantically offers the exact coordinates of a unique world-tier piece of equipment. A third tries to seduce him with a top-tier chaos element skill. Our boy doesn't even break his stride. His veteran gamer logic kicks into absolute overdrive. He knows that clearing an elemental gate guarantees a spirit egg of that exact element, since he's the first person in history to open the Gate of Chaos. He expects a priceless chaos spirit egg as his baseline reward. But the fact that these spirits are actively sweating and throwing world-class bribes at him just to stop him from opening a door means one undeniable thing. The actual loot hiding behind that door is unimaginably more broken than anything they are offering. The spirits scream that he is making a foolish choice, warning him this is his absolute last chance to turn back before the thousands of illusions overwhelm him. Our boy finally pauses, glancing over his shoulder. He casually admits that fighting an army of thousands without a single health potion will definitely be a massive headache. However, because he just spent the last few hours fighting 100 copies of the exact same boss, he has its attack frames permanently burned into his retinas. He smoothly informs the baffled spirits that he doesn't need healing items anymore. He will simply perfectly dodge their patterns through sheer brute force and muscle memory. Flashing a cocky grin, he states that since all he has to do is clear the room, there's absolutely no logical reason to walk away from the loot. The spirits fall completely silent, dumbfounded by his absurd reasoning. Slowly, they break into massive grins, openly admitting that they genuinely like this absolute fool of a human. Our boy kicks the heavy doors open, fully bracing himself for the fight of his life, only to step into a completely empty, peaceful cosmic room filled with floating stars and shimmering gold. A system window cheerfully pops up, announcing that he has successfully reached the top of the tower and completed main quest 3. Our boy blinks in sheer confusion, wondering where the army of thousands went. The adorable little helmet-wearing guide spirit from the entrance suddenly materializes, warmly congratulating the druid on officially conquering the tower. While noting his companions are still fighting their way up, the protagonist realizes the ultimate trial was a complete psychological bluff. The guide spirit confirms his suspicion, explaining that chaos spirits are pathological liars. If he had given in to his fear and accepted their shiny bribes, he would have been permanently trapped in that hallway forever. Moving past the deception, music, the guide tells him to extend his hand to finally claim his ultimate clearing reward. Our boy eagerly holds out his palm, fully expecting the legendary Chaos Spirit Egg and perfectly content with the top-tier drop. The system announces the distribution, but then the text glitches. Instead of a Chaos Egg, it unexpectedly declares he has obtained a Celestial Spirit Egg. Our boy stares down at his hand, completely derailed. Instead of a dark chaotic artifact, he is holding an egg made of pristine white feathers radiating a blinding holy golden aura. The absolute veteran of Pangea is left standing in the cosmic room, staring at the egg in pure bewilderment, asking the empty air what on earth he is actually holding. A flurry of system windows suddenly pops up, completely derailing the protagonist's confusion. The system identifies the glowing item as a heavenly spirit egg, a legendary artifact said to exist at the very edge of light and darkness. The description explicitly states that only a true celestial can even see or hatch this egg. Our boy's veteran gamer brain kicks into overdrive. He knows celestials are the mythical race from the heavenly realm, and obtaining this egg mathematically implies the system now classifies him as one of them. He wonders if this broken reward is directly linked to his mysterious heavenly hidden trait. Hoping for a quick lore dump, he asks the adorable guide spirit if it knows anything about the glowing feather egg. The tiny spirit admits its knowledge is pretty limited, but casually drops a massive bombshell. The literal Spirit King is currently showing extreme interest in that exact egg. Our boy practically chokes on air. He knows the Spirit Kings are among the absolute strongest creator beings in all of Pangea. If an entity of that magnitude is staring at his loot, the egg's value is genuinely incomprehensible. Deciding to figure it out after hatching it, he safely stores the artifact in his inventory. The system then officially announces his completion of Main Quest 3 by becoming the first person in history to conquer the Chaos Tower. He absolutely shatters the maximum point limit, racking up a massive 240 points. But the rewards do not stop there. A cascading waterfall of notifications floods his vision as an entire VIP lounge of cosmic entities decides to tip their favorite streamer. The Constellation of Fortune, the Constellation of Adventure, and the mysterious entities of the Temple of 100 Stars all announced their immense satisfaction with his unprecedented trial run. Because these powerful beings love a good dramatic story, they collectively interfered with the system to massively boost his final reward, allowing him to choose 2 legendary prizes out of 20. Our boy can only smile, thoroughly amazed that the payout completely exceeded his wildest gamer fantasies. A short while later, the party officially reunites outside the tower. Isabella emerges victorious with a wind spirit egg, while Hudson proudly secures a water spirit egg. Because the drop rates are slightly random, Isabella actually managed to score 2 eggs. Being the absolute MVP, she immediately hands her spare egg over to the dryads, fulfilling our boy's promise to revive their withering forest. In a display of profound gratitude, the dryads present Isabella with their finest treasure, a 1,000-year-old mandra root that has absorbed the pure vitality of the woods. However, the legendary elixir is a literal mountain of ugliness that looks like a deformed, screaming root. Isabella stares at the gift, her face twisting into a hilarious mask of pure disgust and utter confusion. Our boy simply chuckles, noting that choking down the terrible plant will undoubtedly make his snake princess even stronger. The system formally grants him the title of Friend of the Dryads and registers a new fast travel waypoint, helpfully tipping him off that dryads will never betray a friend's trust, provided he doesn't accidentally commit arson in their forest. Checking the freshly updated Hall of Fame rankings, the protagonist is thrilled to see his alias Randolph firmly sitting in first place, comfortably bumping the legendary Gracia down to second. Because he broke the point ceiling, his guardian wall officially upgrades to level 11. This provides a massive quality of life boost. His logged-out real-world body is now protected from low-level attacks for 30 seconds, and his in-game body is equally shielded when he logs off. Our boy mentally sighs in pure relief, sweating slightly at how vulnerable his physical body actually was this entire time. Hudson abruptly interrupts the moment to profusely thank the protagonist, his eyes shining with pure capitalist ambition. He eagerly announces his plan to buy a premium spirit incubator the second they get back, knowing the spirit's power will easily carry him to level 10. Before they can head home, Isabella mentions there is a specific place she wants to visit first. Music Hudson, fully converted to the cult of Randolph, blindly agrees to follow them anywhere. The trio uses the waypoint to drop right into the Knight's Garden territory, a region formerly ruled by Marquis Waiter. The second Hudson realizes where they are, he completely loses his mind. He starts trembling and pacing, terrified because this is Serengeti's hometown, and he is nowhere near worthy or wealthy enough to officially propose to her yet. Music. Our boy heavily rolls his eyes, telling the casino boss to stop hyperventilating because they are not here to buy a wedding ring. He simply needs to ask Serengeti a specific question. However, as they walk through the streets, our boy's confidence wavers. The city is an absolute mess. He spots numerous beggars, shattered windows, and a heavy atmosphere of pure misery. They eventually arrive at a massive memorial stone located in the center of the town. Isabella solemnly points to the 500 names carved into the rock, asking if he recognizes any of them. The protagonist admits he doesn't know their names, but he knows exactly how they fell. They were the 500 loyal knights who followed his original character, Wilhelm, on the doomed grand expedition. A heavy wave of guilt washes over him. Back when this was just a game, he treated their fates as simple, dramatic background lore. But now he has to stand there and watch a grieving mother desperately clinging to the stone, loudly cursing Wilhelm's name and begging the bastard to give her son back. The heavy mourning is violently interrupted by a representative of the goddess church loudly shaking down the grieving locals. The man demands a mandatory 50 gold donation from the visiting mourners to fund an emergency medical station. Hudson's business brain shorts out, bluntly pointing out that 50 gold is an entire month's salary for a normal civilian, making it an absurd extortion fee. The aggressive collector defends the shakedown, claiming that the highly respected priest Andrew explicitly ordered the collection. Our boy is completely thrown off by the name. He knows Priest Andrew's core game data explicitly programs him as a pure, devoted, holy man who hands out honor-based quests. Seeing this previously wealthy city reduced to a slum with corrupt priests openly extorting the poor, our boy realizes something is fundamentally wrong with the game's original lore. The scene hard cuts to a luxurious mansion, revealing exactly where the city's leadership currently stands. Marquis Wainer, the noble ruler of the territory, is slumped at his desk, a complete mess. He's clearly had too much to drink, surrounded by empty bottles. When his loyal butler gently begs him to stop, the Marquis responds by hurling a bottle near the servant, furiously demanding more to drink. Our hero decides it's time to speak with the man in charge and requests an audience with Priest Andrew. The station worker awkwardly rubs the back of his neck, explaining it's nearly impossible since the waiting list for treatment is incredibly long. Our hero simply snaps his fingers. Hudson, his personal walking bank, steps up and casually offers a 50,000 gold donation. The worker's jaw just about hits the floor. Sensing an opportunity, the casino boss leans in and whispers he'll double it to a cool 100,000 if they can see the priest right now. The worker's moral compass instantly shatters. Seeing a mountain of gold, he eagerly calls them his brothers and rushes them to a back room. Priest Andrew warmly welcomes his newest, most generous patrons, inviting them to sit while nervously mentioning their astronomical donation. Our hero leans back, casually noting that since the church was taking 50 gold from grieving mothers, a standard donation wouldn't be enough to skip the line. Andrew looks like a kicked puppy. He admits with deep shame that there's no excuse for his actions. Our hero's tone softens, genuinely asking how a major relief center in a wealthy city ended up in such dire straits. Andrew sighs, revealing the tragic story. He explains that Sister May, the grieving mother from outside, lost her only son in the grand expedition, and she wasn't the only one. Countless knights from Knight's Garden, inspired by the Night King Wilhelm, marched off to face the Demon King, never to return. The city lost a huge portion of its people and resources. However, Knight's Garden was wealthy enough that time would have eventually healed the economic wounds. The real trouble began when the Lord's daughter, Lady Serengeti, returned from that ill-fated mission. Our hero listens as Andrew reveals that Serengeti returned missing both her legs and trapped in a mysterious, unending sleep. Marquis Waiter, desperate to save his only daughter, began to act erratically. He burned through the city's treasury on useless remedies, letting countless swindlers drain his wealth. When all else failed, the desperate father even took out a disastrous loan. Using the entire territory as collateral, the Marquis broke down, cutting off all city funding. Now this relief center is all that keeps the sick from being left on the streets. That's why the church has been forced to ask so much from visitors. They desperately need the funds just to keep the doors open and care for the patients. Processing this heavy story, our hero deduces Serengeti's condition isn't a physical ailment. Andrew confirms it's likely a powerful curse, beyond his holy abilities to heal. The protagonist starts putting the pieces together. He realizes his broken star's blessing could probably nullify the curse, just like it did for Isabella. Having heard enough, our hero stands and announces he's going directly to the Marquis. Andrew panics, warning him that the heartbroken lord rarely sees visitors and begs for a few days to arrange a meeting. Our hero smirks, stating he doesn't have that kind of time. Besides, his massive donation is already opening doors. Right on cue, a knight enters, announcing the Lord wishes to meet the generous guest who just funded the clinic. Our hero chuckles at how predictable, powerful people can be. He notes that showing up with a mountain of gold gets you an instant invite. As he leaves, Andrew calls out, thanking him not for the money, but for helping Sister May. Our hero gives a warm smile and tells Andrew it's good to see you again. The priest is left utterly bewildered by the strangely familiar farewell. The scene cuts to the Marquis's estate, where the Lord of Knight's Garden looks completely worn out. Waiter shakes his head, assuming the young man is just another merchant or a spoiled noble with much coin. He offers a slurred apology for the sudden invitation. Our hero silently studies the broken nobleman. He remembers when Waiter was a renowned and fearsome knight, known across the continent. Back when our hero was Wilhelm, he personally helped Serengeti become a transcendent powerhouse. In gratitude, Waiter swore unbreakable loyalty to Wilhelm, building a reputation for repaying debts of kindness with devotion. The protagonist wonders if the man's noble spirit is as shattered as his current appearance. The Marquis cuts to the chase, openly admitting his city is facing severe financial ruin and hoping to strike a mutually beneficial deal to extract more of the guests' gold. Our boy decides to skip the corporate dance. He looks the Marquis dead in the eye and bluntly declares that he will cure Serengeti. The Marquis freezes, then bursts into a bitter, manic laugh. He furiously mocks our boy, assuming he is just another opportunistic parasite trying to milk the famous rumor that the Marquis will throw endless cash at anyone who mentions his daughter. The Marquis angrily demands to know the price tag. 300,000? 400,000? The whole territory itself? Slam in his fist hard enough to rattle the heavy wooden table. The Marquis screams that he has already been bled dry by swindlers. Utterly disgusted, he orders his royal knight to take the swindler's sight and throw him into the street. Our boy doesn't even flinch. He calmly states he doesn't want a single copper coin. He refuses to guarantee a miracle, but promises there is a genuine chance he can wake her up. The Marquis narrows his bloodshot eyes, demanding to know why a total stranger would offer a priceless cure for absolutely free. Our boy leans forward, his voice dripping with absolute authority. He states that he is not doing a favor. He is repaying a massive debt. Watching the Marquis' confusion spike, the protagonist drops the ultimate bombshell. He boldly claims to be the official heir of the Night King, the sole successor to Wilhelm. He demands to be taken to Serengeti immediately to ask her a question, and in exchange he will save the daughter who sacrificed everything for her master. The Marquis breaks into a dark, mocking grin. He points out that the entire continent is currently crawling with delusional fools claiming to be Wilhelm's magical successor. Refusing to entertain the nonsense for another second, he orders his knights to dispose of our boy and get rid of his companions waiting outside. A heavily armed knight lunges forward with grim intent. Our boy casually picks up his porcelain teacup and effortlessly intercepts the massive strike. With terrifying casual strength, he shoves the knight backward, violently shattering the delicate cup directly against the man's steel breastplate. Unfazed by the absolute chaos he just caused, our boy stares down the stunned Marquis. He firmly demands that the Marquis prepare the combat arena so he can physically beat the truth into them and prove once and for all that he is Wilhelm's true successor. Quick pause. Screaming. If you're enjoying the story so far, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps to make it worth it to bring you the next parts. Done. Awesome. Let's get back to it. The scene drops us straight into the combat arena. Up in the spectator stands, the casino boss turns to the Snake Princess, utterly bewildered as to how they went from visiting an extortionate medical clinic to a gladiatorial duel in record time. Isabella calmly notes that the protagonist has always been wildly unpredictable, but even she has absolutely no idea how things escalated this quickly. Down on the dirt floor, our boy casually sizes up his opponent. He mentally notes that the royal knight is decked out in a full set of premium equipment, explicitly blessed by a high-ranking priest, meaning the man came completely prepared to deliver a final blow. The knight arrogantly offers the protagonist one final chance to confess his lies and beg for forgiveness to spare his own life. Our boy shuts him down immediately, firmly demanding the knight keep his promise to hide his identity and not go blabbing to the press after he inevitably loses out of sheer embarrassment. The knight scoffs, swearing on his honor that it won't happen, and eagerly lunges forward to teach the self-proclaimed successor a brutal lesson. Our boy effortlessly dodges the initial strike. He internally calculates that despite the massive casualties from the grand expedition, these veteran knights still boast vastly superior base stats and gear compared to his current level, meaning he cannot afford to be entirely careless. When the knight follows up with a secondary strike, our boy steps completely inside his guard and blocks the heavy sword handle directly with his own forehead. The knight is utterly stunned, immediately deciding his opponent is not a simple con artist. but an absolute madman. Up in the VIP section, the Marquis and his personal guard, Lucas, are intensely watching the bout. Lucas notes that challengers' movements are genuinely impressive, but the Marquis bitterly dismisses them as mere parlor tricks. The Marquis mentally reflects that he has seen an endless parade of delusional fools claiming to be Wilhelm's disciple just to ride the coattails of his reputation. Having fought alongside the Night King, the Marquis knows Wilhelm's swordsmanship completely transcends human comprehension. Unless the boy can flawlessly replicate even a microscopic fragment of that legendary technique, the Marquis refuses to believe him. Back on the dirt, the royal knight generously admits the protagonist possesses real talent. He offers to ask the Lord for a full pardon if our boy simply surrenders and joins his personal command. Our boy bluntly points out that the knight is awfully cocky for a level 3 scrub hiding behind full set of premium armor. The knight awkwardly defends himself, claiming the Lord ordered him to wear it, though he admits the massive gear advantage feels completely dishonorable. Our boy sighs, remarking that having good items must be nice, right before delivering a brutal kick directly to the knight's chin. Deciding playtime is officially over. The protagonist declares he will personally demonstrate the true power of items. A system window chimes as he simultaneously equips 2 ultimate iron swords. A ripple of sheer confusion washes over the entire arena, with both the casino boss and the Marquis completely baffled as to where he just pulled duel blades from. Our boy goes on the offensive, furiously pushing the knight backward. The royal guard desperately analyzes the rapid strikes, calculating that the twin swords are incredibly fast but far too light to deal any real damage. He smugly assumes that as long as he protects his vital points, the low-damage weapons won't even scratch his heavy armor. His confidence violently evaporates when our boy abruptly switches his attack rhythm, completely crushing the knight's defense and driving him into the dirt. Towering over his opponent, our boy confidently declares he is about to show him the real knight King's swordsmanship. The narration seamlessly jumps back to the exact moment our boy completed the Tower of Spirits. A massive list of legendary rewards had populated his screen, ranging from demon-slaying blades to annihilation gauntlets. His eyes instantly locked onto the ultimate iron sword. The item description revealed it was a basic iron weapon pushed to transcendent perfection by an eccentric star, granting bonuses strength and a free level in sword proficiency. More importantly, it featured a broken set effect that multiplied stat bonuses if the user wore multiple items with the ultimate title. Since he was already perfectly happy with his celestial dragon armor, our boy wondered if the system would allow duplicate rewards. He greedily selected the ultimate iron sword twice, and the system happily obliged. The real magic happened when his hidden traits kicked in, stacking his weapon master trait, his dexterity trait, the base item effect, and the duplicated set bonus. His overall sword proficiency artificially skyrocketed straight to level 10. Reaching the absolute maximum proficiency automatically triggered a hidden condition within his Star Inheritor class, allowing him to directly read the memories of his possessed star and flawlessly reproduce a portion of Night King Wilhelm's legendary swordsmanship. He had been completely confused by the massive boss drop at the time, but right now, it was the absolute perfect weapon. Back in the present arena, the knight is experiencing pure, unfiltered terror. The momentum has completely shifted. He desperately tries to create distance, but the impossibly fast strikes seamlessly bind his feet to the floor. When he attempts to forcefully break through the assault, the sheer weight of the protagonist's technique completely shatters his balance. The royal guard feels as though space itself is being entirely dominated by his opponent, desperately wondering if such absurd swordsmanship should even logically exist in this world. The narration smoothly points out that people naturally become complete fools when faced with something utterly beyond their comprehension. They can do nothing but stare blankly in dumbfounded silence. That is exactly how everyone in the arena feels right now. From the Snake Princess and the Casino Boss to the Marquis and the Terrified Knight, our boy seamlessly executes Wilhelm's signature move, the Heaven and Earth Revolution, in a blinding display of overwhelming power. He completely shatters the Royal Guard's defense, firmly pinning the man to the ground. The absolutely humiliated knight immediately admits total defeat. Our boy looks up toward the VIP box, loudly shouting at the Marquis to ask if he really needs to demonstrate anything else. The completely awestruck Lord turns to his guard, Lucas. With his voice trembling in sheer reverence, he strictly orders his men to escort the guest up with the absolute utmost respect, officially recognizing him as the one true successor of the Supreme Night King, Wilhelm. Down in the dirt, our boy flashes a massive, highly satisfied grin. The scene shifts directly into the grim atmosphere of Serengeti's bedroom. The Marquis looks utterly defeated as he explains the tragic lore, noting that his daughter has been trapped in a comatose state ever since returning from the Grand Expedition. He completely drained the territory's treasury on famous elixirs and elite healers, even begging a saint for a miracle, but the curse was simply too heavy to lift. Our boy silently activates his great sage trait, confirming his absolute worst suspicion. Serengeti is suffering from a direct curse from the Demon King. Naturally, standard holy magic is completely useless against it. However, the protagonist calculates that a raw, unfiltered injection of star power might just overwrite the dark magic. He warns the desperate lord that he isn't making any guarantees, but he is willing to try. Hovering his hand over Serengeti's pale face, he triggers the blessing of the stars. A system window immediately flashes a warning, stating his current star power is entirely insufficient to permanently shatter the Demon King's curse, but it manages to temporarily remove the limit. To the Marquis's absolute shock, Serengeti slowly opens her eyes, thoroughly confused about her surroundings. The Lord rushes to the bedside, weeping openly as he asks if she recognizes him. However, her eyes completely bypass her father and lock directly onto the trembling man standing in a corner. Hudson steps forward, his voice cracking as he apologizes for taking so long to arrive. The narration dives into the casino boss's tragic desperation. He'd always believed that as long as she was breathing, there was hope. His grand plan was to secure a seat on the city council and return as a man finally worthy of the Marquis's respect. Even knowing she had lost her legs, he was fully prepared to become them for her. But his capitalist optimism was ultimately just a massive dose of denial. While he was out grinding for political power, her body was actively withering away. If the protagonist hadn't forcibly dragged him here today, Hudson would have completely missed his final window to ever see her alive. The Marquis is entirely derailed, demanding to know who this crying stranger is and what business he has with his daughter. Deciding to be the ultimate buzzkill, our boy completely halts the emotional reunion. He bluntly informs the room that the Demon King's curse is only temporarily paused, not broken. At best, she has a few days of consciousness before she slips right back into an endless slumber. To completely cure her, he desperately needs more star power. Music. The protagonist mentally runs the numbers, realizing his only viable option is to recover the 5 specific stars that his original character, Wilhelm, dropped upon his passing. Thanks to his star inheritor class, recovering those artifacts unlocks vital memories from his past life. With 1 already secured, he has 4 left to hunt down before a rival player snatches them up. Knowing he's on a brutally strict time limit, our boy immediately kicks the Marquis and Hudson out of the room, demanding a private audience with the patient. Out in the hallway, the Lord aggressively interrogates Hudson. The casino boss formally introduces himself, confirming his secret promise of marriage to Serengeti and begging for a chance, probably noting he is on the verge of joining the city council. The Marquis looks at him with pure, heavy exhaustion. He explains that Hudson's political ambitions are completely useless now. The financial ruin caused by the Grand Expedition forced the Marquis to beg for external bailouts to keep his daughter on life support. The only person who answered was Duke Lucian, a dangerously powerful noble whose authority rivals the king himself. The Duke offered an astronomical loan to save the territory, but on one brutal condition: Serenity must be handed over to him. The Marquis accepted the deal to save his city and ensure his daughter wouldn't be abandoned without medical care. He drops the ultimate hammer on the devastated casino boss, revealing that in exactly 1 month, Serenity will be shipped off to House Lucian, firmly ordering Hudson to forget she ever existed. Meanwhile, back inside the bedroom, Serenity demands to know who the strange man standing over her is. Our boy confidently introduces himself as the official successor to the Night King, Wilhelm, claiming he came to deliver news of her master's final moments. Serenity absolutely refuses to buy it, fiercely declaring that Wilhelm had no successor. Our boy mentally praises his loyal knight for not falling for cheap lies, then decides to drop a lore bomb to prove his identity. He recounts a hyper-specific memory from the exact day she received her star. She had been absolutely terrified that absorbing the cosmic power to become a transcendent would strip away her humanity, specifically fearing she would lose her deep love for Hudson. Serenity is visibly shaken, knowing that highly classified emotional breakdown was a secret strictly between her and Wilhelm. Our boy flashes a nostalgic smile, reminding her exactly how he offered words of encouragement that day. His version of emotional support involved telling her to shut up and take the power right before physically shoving her off a cliff. The narration smoothly explains the sheer absurdity of this memory. Back when he was just a gamer playing Tanja, that specific toxic interaction was literally just an automated emote triggered by pressing Control and a keyboard key. However, since his Star Inheritor class unlocks the original owner's memories upon maxing out Sword Proficiency, that simple keyboard macro has been seared into his mind as an intensely vivid, lifelike memory. To him, pushing her off a cliff feels like a real, lived experience. Serenity realizes this specific brand of almost unhinged encouragement is so uniquely Wilhelm, it just can't be fake. Accepting the truth, she asks if his completely changed appearance means he's officially become a sinner. He confirms it. The narration explains that sinners are players with new bodies who retain their past memories, strongly warning that elite NPC executioners, known as hunters, specifically track them down to eliminate them on sight. Serenity warns him to be careful, but our hero completely brushes off the danger. He leans in, his expression turning gravely serious, and states he desperately needs to know what truly happened in his final moments. He vividly recalls plunging his blade into the Demon King's core and watching the monster disintegrate. But at the battle's climax, time completely froze and he was hit with the game over screen. He demands the absolute truth about his downfall from the only surviving witness. Looking up from her bed, the exhausted knight gazes at the young man, her vision blurring until she sees the imposing, legendary figure of Wilhelm in his place. The narration dives into the legendary tale of the Grand Demon World Expedition. Led by Wilhelm, an unprecedented force of 200,000 elite troops marched into the abyss. Their morale soared with the dream of becoming legends. Based on endless data, they executed a meticulous operation with no room for error. Everything was calculated to be absolutely perfect. Reality, however, hit them like a freight train. The scene shifts to the absolute carnage of the battlefield. A poison priest uses his last breath to offer holy blessings to the vanguard. A grievously wounded knight with one arm stubbornly tells his comrades to leave him and push forward. Soldiers were falling left and right, desperately screaming that they couldn't stop now. They were being completely overwhelmed before even reaching the Demon King's front door. Realizing in horror that the enemy anticipated their every move, the grim truth dawns on them. A traitor must be working with the demons, making the entire expedition a hopeless mission from the start. Just as despair reaches its peak, Wilhelm arrives. The martial god effortlessly cuts through the gloom, casually telling the battered survivors to rest while he wraps things up. His overwhelming presence alone makes the demonic horde seem utterly pitiful. With a single casual strike, he reshapes the very terrain, shattering the atmosphere of doom. The flashback focuses on Wilhelm carrying a battered Serenity on his back. She stubbornly insists she's recovered enough to walk, but Wilhelm brushes her off, saying he needs her to conserve stamina because she's a useful asset. He bluntly notes that besides the wounded, they already evacuated. They're the only two left from the entire army. He orders her to survive and return home, teasing her about crying every night over a guy named Hudson. Blushing furiously, she denies the crying allegations, but firmly promises she will go back to him. The moment is shattered when a massive, glowing, violet magic circle erupts beneath them. Wilhelm instantly shoves Serenity out of the blast zone, casually noting, "This game really isn't easy." He tells her to go and live a good life, whether she gets married or not, and prepares to take the hit. Music! Thrown to safety, Serenity's mind races. She knows she could run. The expedition is a failure. The Night King ordered her to live, and she could return to her life with Hudson with no one to blame her. But her loyalty outweighs her survival instinct. Mentally apologizing to Hudson, she activates her position swap skill. In a flash of light, she trades places with Wilhelm, taking the full force of the magical trap. That tragic moment is how she lost both of her legs. Back in the present, Serenity explains she only survived the blast because of an ultra-rare elixir Wilhelm had given her. Our hero mentally sweats, remembering that when it was just a game, he'd mindlessly used premium healing items for dramatic effect without a second thought. She continues, stating that Wilhelm immediately used an extreme vanishing talisman on her, completely hiding her from the Demon King's sight. Thanks to her invisibility, she was the sole silent witness to the world's end. Our boy leans in, desperate for the truth. She confirms Wilhelm completely overwhelmed the Demon King, just as he recalls. But at the battle's climax, Wilhelm froze solid, as if time had stopped. The battered Demon King laughed at the paralyzed hero, calling him a monster for pushing a demon lord to the edge using 5 stars without a shred of divine authority. However, the Demon King gloated that without holy power, his core essence could never be permanently erased. As a twisted gesture of respect, the demon prepared to abandon his broken form and forcibly possess Wilhelm's perfect body. But as the possession started, a blinding holy light intervened. The Demon King screamed in pure, unfiltered rage, cursing the goddess Pina. He furiously accused the benevolent goddess of maliciously eliminating her own loyal knight just to keep a demon from stealing her precious star. Vowing he would end her, the Demon King was silenced as Wilhelm's fallen form collapsed to the ground. Serenity solemnly admits she has no memory of what happened after that. Our hero sits in stunned silence, his mind completely reeling. The Demon King tried to hijack his character, but it was the goddess Pina who actually pulled the plug and handed him a game over. He desperately tries to figure out what was really happening behind the scenes of his supposed heroic sacrifice. This heavy lore drop is cut short as the scene shifts to the outer walls of Knight's Garden. 2 bored guards are complaining about their miserable patrol shift, whining about late paychecks, being severely understaffed, and the territory's impending bankruptcy. Their grumbling comes to a sudden halt when they spot a massive, terrifying shadow moving across the horizon. Pure panic sets in as they scream that a catastrophic monster wave is attacking the city. Thanks for sticking around. If you enjoyed this recap, drop a like and share your favorite moment in the comments. I'll catch you in the next video for more craziness. Peace out.